What's going on, everybody? Because we are using StreamYard and not Zoom, we cannot see all of you guys. But if you put a note in your comments, you can tell us who you are, where you're from. That'll let us know that you're here. And tonight we're going to be talking about how many rentals do you need to retire? This is a question that we get quite often inside the community. So we're going to talk about all of the different scenarios tonight. If you're joining us, drop something in the chat so that we know you're here. All right. Where do you see people? You get the mapping number.
Maybe that's it, because I was telling you how if I do the invite one, I don't think you get to see it or move things around.
Yeah. Okay. Well, as you guys are coming in, we were early. Jasmine, we're early.
Yeah.
You're always early to stuff. Pretty
If
much.
you're on time, you're late.
Yeah, I'm the same way. Is that a Hawaii thing, or is everybody in Hawaii late to stuff?
No, they call it Hawaiian time because they're always late. So if you want them there at a certain time, you tell them it's 30 minutes earlier.
That's interesting though, because most people show up on time for their calls. Most people are there on time. So it must say that we're offering something valuable.
Yeah, we're gonna go with that.
I don't know. I always say it's
You
girlfriend time.
have to be on.
Girlfriend time is like you got to tell them 15 minutes early. What time's the movie? 6:45. Why are we here early? We're on time.
CJ does that to me too. He's like, "Let's go, we gotta go," and then we get there early, and he's like, "We're on time."
I'm telling you. That's how it works. That is we were so when we were hiking Everest, we had this is just I'm just making conversation. We had one of the girls on the trip went on 100 first dates in a row, and she logged all of them and rated all of them. Like she had a whole scoring spreadsheet for it. I thought you would really appreciate that. Um,
Oh God, that'd be awful. Why would you want to do that?
well,
100?
so she moved here from Taiwan, and she had moved because she didn't get married. She was in a long-term relationship. She decided not to get married, so she moved here, and then she was trying to figure out what she wanted. Um, so she dated 100 guys over a year, no more than one date per guy, to rate them and like get her thoughts. And then guy number 99, she's now been dating for a year and a half. She went back after she was like, and then I did 3 months of being single. I thought you would appreciate the spreadsheet, but one of the things was, are they on time? And she said she was like, most guys, like more than half were late. But then she also said she asked them, like, is it important to you? Because it's important to her. She's a lawyer.
Mm,
Um,
that
and
makes more sense that she would have something like that as a lawyer.
I told her she should write a book. I think it'd be a good book. All right, if you're just joining us, come on in. We are having some conversations. Today's topic is how many rentals do you need to retire? So, this is a question that we get from a lot of people when they're thinking about getting into real estate. They're trying to figure out how to do the math behind this. Jasmine, did you guys do this when you and CJ started? Like, you were the one that like really pushed CJ. Did you have a plan as to how many rentals you wanted to get?
Of course I did, and it came with an Excel sheet.
Do you? I want to see that Excel sheet. How many were on your original Excel sheet? I-
I had 10 tabs that I wanted to fill.
10 tabs, and was each tab a house?
Yes,
Okay, so your goal was to get 10, and I don't
in
know.
like
Do you even
20
know
years. Yes,
what was that
in 20 years. I
in
wanted to
20
get a
years?
house. Yes, a house every other year, and over 20 years, we should have 10 homes, and we would be able to retire. That was
And
the goal.
now,
That was the plan.
so now you're 11 years in. Should we even ask how many houses you have?
I don't know. I mean, I can over the last 11 years, I can tell you we've gone through like at least 100,
Like,
hundreds, possibly.
I was going to say, the last number I heard was multiple hundreds. So that's kind of a fun fact, but you do it because it gets fun and it's addictive and it's easy.
Yeah. So yeah, once you get good at something, right? How can you? It's hard not to keep going with something that you've done well for.
Sure.
But
And
that's not a real big reason, right? It's also the fact that we enjoy doing this now more than anything, not just to get something, to get a house or to get that result, but it also keeps us active and keeps us going. So we're staying recent as well. It's a big deal for us to continue, not be one of those people who teach you the theory.
honestly, that is one thing that I tell a lot of the people that I'm talking to. One of the reasons that I love working with you guys is you're actually in the arena doing the thing that you teach, which in people who teach real estate, it's pretty rare. Most people did it 10 or 15 years ago, and they continue to teach kind of outdated models. I know the first two real estate coaches I had were like that. It's kind of weird how that works. So if you're just joining us, come on in. We're going to be discussing how many rentals you need to retire. If you guys have a guess on this, I would love to see your guesses in the chat. Also, tell us who you are and tell us where you're from. The whole point of this is to be interactive and to make this a fun learning experience for everybody here. We're going to be discussing how you get your first rental, how many rentals you actually need, how fast you can go. That's a question we get a lot too. Like, hey, if I really commit to this, if I really go all in, how fast can I build a portfolio and retire? I want to spend time with my family. I want to, buy my kids a house. This is something we hear a lot, right? You told me this when I started working with you. What's the number one thing that most people want in Hawaii?
So yeah, a common one I get is I want to be able to buy myself a home and then eventually buy my kids a home, preferably right next door. That way that they're going to be okay.
I mean, it is challenging. Like, people want to live in Hawaii because it's a great place to live. It's fun. They're used to it. Their family and friends are there, but costs are rising a lot, and it's really hard to buy good investment property in Hawaii anymore. You might get some appreciation, but you're going to end up with negative cash flow, which doesn't really make sense at all. Like, the investing that we teach is investing in the Midwest, where you can buy a house for 100 to 150K. It's going to make you a good amount of passive income every single month, as well as appreciation. And that's how you can grow and buy your house in Hawaii, right?
Absolutely.
So I don't know. I was talking to somebody today, and she has a rather big house. She has, I think it was 5-bed, 3-bath, and her kids have all moved out and gone to college. So she's got this big house, and she's like, but I don't want to give it up. I want to stay here, but I need to figure out how to make some extra money, and I want to retire. Her main thing was, I want to retire. And I said, well, how long till you want to retire? And she said, well, I like what I do, but it would be great if I had some extra income that I could, have every month as a cushion. But really, I need to get to, she said, somewhere between $7,000 to $8,000 a month coming in passively to retire. And I said, okay, I think that's a fair goal. And I said, how long? And she said 15 years. So if that kind of suits what you're thinking, if you're listening to this, would that be okay for you guys? If we got you to $8,000 in 15 years, free and clear, coming in every month, would that be enough for you to retire? I don't know. Put it in the chat. See if we've got a lot of people here. If you're just joining us, because I see our numbers are going up, Jasmine is the co-founder of WNM Properties. My name's Steve. I'm one of the people that helps with stuff here. And we're going to be talking tonight about how many rentals you need to retire. Rosaline says, yes, you need rentals to retire. Is that the question? Where are you guys from? Put where you're from in the chat. Let us know. We can help you out from there. So the call that I had today, I'm going to reiterate what it was. The lady she likes her job. She would like a little bit of extra income every month. Okay. Benjamin says 8K is not enough. Benjamin, thank you. I would agree. I think 8K is a little bit low. All right. Rosaline's from California. Welcome. You guys tell us where you're from. This is all meant to be interactive. We're here to help you guys. And one of the questions we always get at the beginning is, I want to retire. How many houses do I need? So we're going to be diving into that and answering that question. So 8K is not enough. What do you think the right number is? Put the number that you think you would need to retire on per month if it was free and clear. Mary, thanks for joining us from Hawaii. Jasmine, what do you think? When you designed that first spreadsheet 11 years ago, you wanted 10 properties. What was your income target?
My income target was $10,000.
$10,000 a month.
Yep.
Okay. Benjamin says 15,000. Chris is giving us a zip code. I thought that was a number there for a second. I was like, wow.
He's getting exact.
Very exact. Jeremy, thanks for joining us. Good to see you. Good to see you. If you're just coming in, tonight's topic is how many houses do you need to retire? We're going to be talking about time frames, how fast you can get there, whether or not you want to keep working now. Rosaline says her husband is retired or still works, but she's retired. All right. 20K a month.
8 fourplexes.
Thea says, I'm from New York City. I somehow had in my mind 8 fourplexes. 8 fourplexes is pretty good, but a fourplex in, I don't know, the middle of nowhere, Ohio versus a fourplex in Scottsdale, Arizona. So we're really looking at money. Mary says 8K is not enough. 30K a month. Free and clear after taxes with your house paid for. I like your standard of living, Mary. You and I have similar interests. I like this. I would say 15 to 20K a month being from Hawaii. Michael, I think you're probably right. Do we take a service charge each month? We do not. There's no service charge on rentals. You'll have your bills, you'll have your property manager and those people that you have to take care of, but they're all built into the P&L sheet for each individual property. The way that we do the math on the property, we try to, we would never tell you to buy a place that doesn't cash flow at least $300 a month after all the bills, after holdback for maintenance, management, and vacancy. But we really like to see more around the $400 to $500 a month mark. Do I have to go to the mainland? Well, you don't have to go there. You do have to buy houses there. You don't have to, but you don't have to visit there. Actually, we would tell you not to visit there. Jasmine, how many of the properties that you own in the Midwest have you actually gone to look at?
So this is the story of how I like to tell it. We started buying, we were born and raised in Hawaii. We started buying in the mainland because we knew that it wasn't going to cash flow. And we wanted to get out of our jobs now and not wait, right? So in my initial, it was the 10 properties in 20 years. But then, and it was save the money, buy one every other year with a down payment. After 20 years, the mortgages would be paid off. There's my 10 grand or more, or whatever, right? But then CJ got injured and he turned my 20-year plan into I need to get out yesterday. So we had a different strategy to that to go. So then we went to 25 doors in a year and a half, I think. Maybe we may have took a little, no, probably 2 years. In the first 2 years, we probably had 25 doors. And then we went to go see them, which actually, when we went, we forgot to go see them. And we ended up I mean, the idea was to go see the properties and actually look at them. But when we were kind of getting up there, we thought, why would we need to see the properties? Let's go meet our team members. That's more important. So yeah, we went and we met them in person. We built a relationship, a real connection, so we could grow even faster. And then I'll be honest, I think we must have had 70 doors, maybe more, in Florida at the time. We never went to Florida. I have yet to ever go to Florida, where we had quite a few of those there. But.
So what's really interesting about this, if you're listening to this and you're like, what do you mean you never went and looked at it? It's actually better to invest in properties that you never go see in person. You will make a better, less emotional decision, and you'll make a better investment decision because you're actually basing it on the numbers. And we still send a home inspector, we still spend a contractor, we still send a property manager. Like, you're going to know the bones of the property. You're going to know whether it's safe, you're going to know whether it's in good condition, but you're not going to make an emotional decision. I've seen so many landlords walk into a property and become emotional because they would either live there or they wouldn't live there. You're trying to build an investment portfolio that makes you money. The things that you should be using to make your decision is, does this place make money? Is it a good rental that will stay full and have low vacancy? And it is in a good location that is low crime, has a good school system, and is landlord friendly. Raf asking me how many properties I have. I actually sold all of my single families and I own multifamily now. I own quite a few doors in multifamily. I am partners. I have partners in those properties. So it's not me by myself, but it's over 700 doors at this point. I had, at my peak in single family, I had 53 properties for about 156 doors when I was at my peak in single family. All right, so we're talking about how many properties you need in order to retire. Your goal when you started, Jasmine, was 10, and then CJ injured himself. Do you think he did it on purpose, maybe?
No, he was actually very happy working where he was at until he got injured. And the way they treated him when he was injured really set the tone of how he felt about being there after that. And then he was like, I got to get out of here. And so for us at the time, we were okay with having our lives. We had very stable jobs. We were completely content, I guess you could say, right? Nothing crazy. We had stabilized homes. We knew we were doing well. Even the idea of like, oh my God, we're so lucky. We will get to retire when we're 60. Most people can't even do that. And we're going to have such a nice life at 60. Like, at the time we're 25 thinking, oh, I only have to work. What is that? 45 years, right?
Right.
And that's so amazing. And we were just happy until he was discontent. So it was a good strategy, right? For someone who was perfectly fine with working for the next 45 years of, 40, 50, sometimes 60 hours. And we were perfectly fine with it. And so 20 years, not that bad. But it's when he turned it into like yesterday, we had to change our strategy completely. But 10 doors over 20 years would absolutely get me.
You'd be retired.
Yeah. The retirement plan.
I think so too. We're going to break this down into a couple different ways you can look at it. There are some questions in the chat. So Jeremy asks, how much were the houses when you first started buying? I think that's a fair question. You remember?
Yeah. So when we first started buying, I can even tell you the whole journey of because we were, I bought my first rental before CJ and I really did anything. But before we really went off and did the rental thing, I actually had one during, okay, now I'm going to just date myself, but during the crash in 2007. Yeah. So those were going for like $150,000 in California, which was crazy back then, like how cheap that ended up being. And then when we started buying back in 10 years ago, so it's 2016, 2015, the houses were maybe like 80 to 100,000. And as you can see, our numbers aren't crazy now. So it's not like.
Yeah. I mean, now, just so you guys know, Benjamin and Jeremy, you're both asking, the houses that we look at now in the Midwest are between 100 and 150,000. They're going to cash flow somewhere around $400 to $500 a month after expenses. And there are plenty of those out there. If you look, I know people are always like, what? If you look across Ohio, if you look across Indiana, if you look across Kansas, Iowa, you can find good little towns where, you know, the population is 40 to 100, 120,000, where you can find good houses in good areas, like not crime-ridden areas, not things that are trashed. You can find good rentable houses for that. They're all over out there. And I know that might seem crazy coming from California or Hawaii, but you have big open areas that in farmland, and then you have small farm towns. And that's just it. That's how it works out there. That's why we recommend investing there. So let's go ahead, Jasmine, and talk about how many rentals do you need? How much down to cash flow $400, $500 a month? Great question. 20%. So we teach everybody should buy their first house with bank financing because it's the easiest to get into. 20% down, that's your cash flow right there.
And adding into that, like what he was meaning by like starting it off in the easiest ways, that's why we always recommend the single family as well. There's a lot of different ways to do this, right? To get to your financial freedom number. It's simply that single family homes is the easiest entry point, especially if you did it with financing too. And it's not saying that you have to do it this way. It's we're just pointing out, at least you've seen a house, you know somebody who lives in one, if not yourself, right? You maybe even own a house and you've gone through the process. You've been in a neighborhood. You got an idea on what single family homes are. So you have an idea what a good neighborhood looks like and doesn't, right? You know that you're working with people who are just like you. The people you're buying from are first-time home buyers, or they've only done it once or twice. When you go into the other types of strategies, multifamilies or bigger commercials or all these other things, you're working with investors. And investors know their numbers. They know how to negotiate. They've been experienced. They've done things. Do you want to play with someone who's never done this before, just like you? Or do you want to play with the big boys and they could eat you alive?
So Patty, how much do you need to start? I would say comfortably 15 to 20,000 is going to get you a property. You can look across Iowa right now. I was actually looking earlier today. One of my friends is looking at buying a place for 110. It's a 2-2, so it's not a big house, but there's rental demand there, and she'll do really well on it. So she's looking at 110. She went to a local area credit union. This is something that we teach. Going to a local area credit union, you can find, like, they will work with you. They're willing to finance if she can put 10% down because she has very good credit. So there's factors that come into play. She's going to probably buy it for $12,000 down plus some closing costs. Can you start with no money or very little money? We've had some success with students, but it is a lot harder road. I don't know if you want to talk about that a little bit, Jasmine.
Yeah, absolutely. So we like to say when you're working with no money, those tend to be where people who are experienced really like to play. So be very careful with that. You get to find a great deal. You better know what a great deal looks like. You better be a great negotiator. You better know how to pivot and how to change and how to make a great deal in order for you to be able to be in there with nothing, right? The better you are, the less money of yours you need. So just take a look at yourself, your experience, your capabilities, and your creativity specifically in real estate. And that's where that gives you an idea. Not saying that you can't get it on your first try, but I don't want to set you up for expectations as if it's something that's so easy, or else everybody would be doing it.
Yeah, it's very, very hard to get in with little to no money. It's extremely challenging, especially doing it remote. It would be very, very difficult. I do want to talk a little bit about how one house turns into two houses or three houses from that same down money. So when we say you have to start with 15 to 20K down, can we just run people through what the BRRRR method looks like? Because this is how you can multiply one house into two into three over a relatively short amount of time.
Yes, absolutely. So I don't like to call the BRRRR something that you do with no money, right? That's different. This is limited money. So you do have to come with something of some sort. You have to get started, right? So the BRRRR is what, a lot of people will, it's been like noted as the big pockets thing or whatever, but it's buy, rehab, rent, refinance, repeat, right? So when you're buying a property, you get to be good. It's not just something that you can just pick up on the MLS, they pay full price, right? And then get financing. Normally a BRRRR, you're going to look for something that most people don't want to buy, or else why would you get the discount, right? You're looking for something that you can get a discount on and build equity through your forced appreciation because you've done the work. So you get to work. This is active income, if you can tell. CJ likes to call the BRRRR method is active income that you get to keep passive for the long term. Versus if you were flipping, it's just active income because you're just doing it over and over, going next. This one is active income for a while, short period of time, to create the passive income. All right. So you buy a property, need some rehabs, need some loving. Okay. And you likely had bought it from a motivated seller. Then we're going to do the rehab. So you got to, normally these properties, they don't like to tell you, like, this is where the limited, no money comes in, right? You got to have something to buy the property and rehab with it. Okay. So, but you're buying it at a discount, you rehab it, you force appreciation. Now that thing's going to appraise for more than what you bought it for plus the rehab. And because you created your own forced appreciation, when you rent it out and you're having it performing and you refinance your money out, you're pulling out all of those funds. Ideal way is you pull out all of it. I'm not here to tell you it happens all the time, because it definitely didn't happen. It was a big part of our strategy and how we grew our portfolio so quickly, was using the BRRRR method and rinse and repeat as many times as possible, as quickly as we can. But it was actually fairly rare that we would pull out all of it. Sometimes we pull out more than what we originally put in, and we got to pull out extra 10, 15,000 of what, and we would be making money off of that. Plus we'd get the passive. But now, majority of them though, we did leave something in, but it was better than the 20%. We may leave 5, we may leave 10. If we messed up, we would leave 15. But that was us messing up because we've done so many of them. As an expert as specializing in this and knowing exactly what we were doing, we were at 15 as a mess up. That was the idea. So just giving you that on how the limited funds things works.
So I'll just give you kind of like a breakdown. I'm going to use whole numbers, just to make it simple. So I'm painting with a big brush, but if there was a place that would be worth 150,000, but you find it and you get a good deal on it, and let's say you pay 125, now you've got 25,000 in equity. Now you're going to go in and you're going to do some light rehab work. I don't like taking on heavy rehabs. It's not really something that we would encourage you to do, because you're doing it from 1,500 miles away. Managing all of that could be a nightmare. But paint, carpet, ceiling fans, doors, maybe some simple landscaping, those are things you can do, right? Now when you reappraise that property a year later, you've put a tenant in and you go back and you reappraise it, it's going to reappraise probably at like 165, 175. Now you have that 50K in equity that you can pull out and go do the next house. That's like a very simple overview of it. It is, of course, more complicated, but that's a general idea. Thea, you're asking about rehab. We don't take on heavy rehabs because we're doing everything remote. So what we're teaching you how to invest from California or from Hawaii all the way in the Midwest. You don't want to have to manage a kitchen or a bathroom or something crazy. You want carpet, paint, ceiling fans, light rehab stuff. A lot of times we usually find places that are very solid rentals that don't need a lot.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's not saying that you can't. I just wouldn't recommend that for your first deal or two. There's just so many things that can go wrong, things that you just don't know, people that could just completely take advantage of you because you have no true expertise in that situation at that moment, and it goes fast. Right? You get your experiencing, you get to figure these things out. And as you grow anything, it's just like anything you do, right? You wouldn't just start trying to lift 1,000 pounds. You start off something smaller, you get yourselves in, you figure out what it should look like for you, and then kind of moving forward, right? But that doesn't mean you don't. You can do huge. We've had people in the space do ground up firehouses, all kinds of things, and I wouldn't recommend it for your first one. That's all. And they've done it all from afar. But it was like they knew their numbers to the back of their hands. They had great contracting teams first.
So what we recommend, just so you guys see how this works, how our program works and what we teach, we recommend getting your first property using traditional bank financing, getting the property, and then building out your team. So you're going to have 6 different people on your team that help take care of the property. You want to get your team in place, and you want to make sure that your team works really well, like a well-oiled machine. And you're going to do that by getting your first 2 or 3 properties, helping them, like getting them managing it. Then you can start looking at some more complex projects. Where I've seen a lot of people really get burned getting started in real estate is taking on a flip, because they see it on TV and it looks super sexy, right? They have, people banging hammers and showing how they're making this really special space, blah, blah, blah. That's not a rental. A rental is usually very plain Jane, very simple, and you don't need to do a lot of repair. If you get into something that needs a lot of repair, especially in your first project, the chances of it going sideways and the chances of you getting hurt financially are a lot higher. So we recommend buy your first property, traditional bank financing, second property, and then you can probably pull a little bit of equity out and go to your next one. Now, Jasmine, you said, because of CJ having to move faster and like, I want to do this right now. How many houses did you get in your first year and a half, 2 years?
Well, honestly, the first year we got 1, and we had to sit there and watch it like a hawk.
Why?
Yeah, huge mistake, because I was just feared. I was alone. I didn't have any sort of guidance or support. We were just doing this by ourselves. And CJ wasn't quite on board on this anyway. He was just waiting for me to fail. So got the 1. He's just like, oh, well, we'll see. Right. And then over a year, he was like, oh my God, it wasn't a scam. It's a real house. We're actually getting money from it. And then we went a little bit bigger. And then suddenly when he got injured, it was, I'm on board for sure now.
Nice. So yeah, then you start going faster.
Much, much faster after we had a different timeline, I guess you could say. And we had more motivation and a bigger why we get to do this even bigger. Oh, I did want to say that there's somebody in there asking if you could explain the BRRRR numbers again. This is going to be replayed, is going to be one of our YouTube things. So if you want to follow WNN Properties on YouTube or in our Facebook, we do put the replay in there so you can actually run the numbers again for yourself, so you don't have to write it down right now.
I'm dropping my link in the chat as well. If you guys are interested in jumping on a call with me, it'll book about a 45-minute call for us. I'm happy to explain what we do at Win, how all of this works. And this is for people that are looking to work together with us. We are a coaching company. We're here to help you get your first property. We have a very good success rate in helping people get their first property. We'll go through a little bit more of what that looks like. But we're going to talk about how many houses. I'm freezing a little bit, huh?
Yeah. Oh, and Steve, the one who asked about the BRRRR, talk to Steve. Go book a call. He'll run the numbers with you.
Yeah, I'll take you through it. Sorry, my camera's a little laggy. We're talking about how many houses you need to retire. So I want to go back to the lady I was talking to today. She's in her early 40s. She wants to retire by the time she's 55. She said, 15 years. She wants to keep her job. She doesn't mind working it. And she was like, well, how fast can I get to retirement and how does that work?
How fast can I get? Well, it depends on how much time does she have and what does she want to do?
She said 15 years. And right now she has about $50K in cash that she can play with. And she has another $50K in equity that she can pull out.
Okay. Well, in her case, if she wants to take 15 years to do that, my plan of 10 properties isn't that terrible for her if you really think about it. But if you want to go faster than that, and not a 20-year plan, then we would definitely want to build up a different strategy for her. So I guess it would depend, like how important is there to save another 15 years of her life.
Yeah. I mean, she likes what she does. She's a therapist, and she really likes what she does. And she feels really called to do it. I mean, the plan that I see there is the simplest way. I would, if she has basically $100,000 to play with in the Midwest, that is comfortably 6, maybe 7 houses. I would buy those over the next year, maybe year and a half, find good deals, find things that are cash flowing $500-$600 a month, which is going to take a little bit of searching. And then honestly, the easiest way to make sure that they're paid off, don't live on any of the money coming in, just pay down the mortgages. She'll have them paid off probably in 6 or 7 years, and then she's going to have plenty of cash flow coming in. That's like a very, very simple single family house method. It doesn't require.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's the sooner you do it, the better, right? Because then you have that time to appreciate, for appreciation. So same thing as the BRRRR. Anything you do in real estate, I feel like, is especially if you're doing it for the long haul, for the monthly income, all of those things. The sooner you do it, is that saying best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, second best is now. The sooner you do it now, the sooner you get all the appreciation, the sooner you can pay it down with other people's rent, paying you rent for it, all of the tax benefits. You get all of those things early. So build up quickly, then hold it over the long term. That is absolutely the strategy. Whether you're building it to 90 properties like we did, or 6 properties like she wants to, or something like that, but then it would be earlier time frame for sure. It would be a much better time to do it.
Yeah.
And also I'd like to point out, and doing it right, because if you buy those 6 properties and you don't know how to do it correctly, you could actually set yourself back even farther. Then now you're going to maybe have to start from scratch if you bought too high, or they somehow you had lots of problems, you don't know how to run them. There's so many things that you just don't know about these properties, because you still get to be an investor for the next 15 years and longer, right? So it's running these properties. It's not how much you make, it's how much you keep.
Absolutely. So there's 2 things that I want to touch on. The first one is, I've seen people get sold, like, quote, turnkey properties that are in the ghetto in Cleveland. They buy them for $60K cash, but they're vacant for a year and a half, or they have a bad tenant. We don't mess with Section 8 stuff. We don't mess with things that are in bad locations, because that's just going to hurt you a lot.
That's the thing too, right? A lot of people we meet that didn't take the time to either understand it or meet somebody who's gone there and done this and knows what to look for, right? They'll go to these basically turnkey companies, and some of these companies will sell them something just because they don't understand or their numbers, they don't know what they're looking at, and they'll say, this is a B neighborhood property that's $60,000. Never mind the bars on the walls, on the windows, right? Don't worry about that. But it's the street differences. That's all it is. They just sold them $120,000 property for what should have been, if they just went on the MLS and looked.
Yeah,
it was being sold for 60, right? Mistakes like that will really truly set you back, just because you don't.
Absolutely. Or listening to another mistake that I see is, I found this great realtor, they're going to take great care of me, they told me I should buy this place. Like, you need to know, I will tell you, like, finding somebody that can help you run the numbers and really look at things, that has been through this, will save you so much time and trouble. I had a student in a different program a couple of years ago that bought a duplex. They paid $140,000 for it, but it had water damage, it had mold, it had a foundation issue, all kinds of problems. They bought it off. It was off market. They didn't get an inspection because they told they didn't need one. Like, it just led to so many problems. Having somebody that can walk you through this, real estate is overwhelming at first, just like driving a car the first time you drove a car, right? Like, how do I drive? How do I steer at the same time? How do I keep my eyes on everything? But once you have somebody that's held your hand and helped you through it a few times, it gets a lot easier. I mean, you were able to go really fast. The other question that she had today, on the call about retiring, she was like, well, what if I buy one property in Hawaii? She's like, from the way I'm running the numbers, I'm going to have to put 500 to 800 a month into it. I'm going to be negative, but I should get that much in appreciation. 10 years from now, it should be worth 2 to 3 times as much. What do you think about that for a retirement plan?
You know, I love to talk to people about this because this is the scenario I like to say. So, say the average house in Hawaii is, just for easy numbers, right? Like $1 million, right? So you got $1 million property. That means you have to have $250,000 of a down payment in the first place, right? 25%, or for a rental property, even if it was 200,000 for, and you got 20% for a rental property. Not to mention all of the people, Hawaii, California's, you just landlord friendly, just ridiculous disaster. But besides that, so now you've put $200,000 of your money in, so you can have the honor of paying $800 a month out of your pocket for the next 10 years, right? Yay, you. I mean, how exciting does that sound? Just so you can hope that someday you can sell it in 10 years if you're able to hold on to it. And by the way, how many of those properties can you buy?
Right.
At $200,000 down to take 800 out of your pocket? Not many, right? And then you got to wait 10 years to do what? So you can sell it to do what? Now you just got a pile of money, right? You still get to do something with that. Now, then you're going to buy what? More affordable property somewhere else? Or you can do that now.
Yeah, I don't like anyone who buys without getting cash flow, like, you can't bank on appreciation. Yes, it will most likely be there, but we don't have a crystal ball. We don't know what's coming in the future. Cash flow, on the other hand, one thing that I like to talk about quite a bit is, if you look back at like 2006, 2007, 2008 till through like 2014, rents actually went up at a higher than normal rate because single family people, some of them were losing their homes and they had to go find somewhere to live. During challenging economic times, rents actually usually go up because there's more rental pressure. I'm not here to take advantage of anybody. That's not my job as a landlord. But I'm saying what statistically happens when there's more people looking for places to rent, prices tend to go up. They're definitely going to hold their value because people need places to live. With appreciation, you don't know what's going to happen. It's a completely different way to look at it. So Mike's asking, how do you fund the rehab? We don't buy rehabs. Like, that's really not something that we look at. Once you have a couple properties, if you want to look at a light rehab, you can. You should have equity in the other properties that you can pull out and use. We also use business loans. Do you want to talk a little bit about the business side of this?
Well, I wouldn't say so much on the business side, but there is a lot of actual options besides just the traditional 30-year personal, on your personal name type of things. There's a lot of different ways to do these things. It's just a matter of how committed you are to figuring out how you get to scale. Because when you're at that traditional 30-year mortgage on your personal name, you only get 10 at best case. And if you're from Hawaii, by the way, you get less than that. We and CJ got capped at 6 because we owned our personal home too, and that just killed it. So we weren't even, between the two of us, be able to get more than that. So it's a plus and minus, right? Then there's but there is so many other ways. When you're committed, you're creative.
That's 100%. Like, when I started, just so you guys know my story a little bit. I started when I was 23. I read Rich Dad Poor Dad. I was in college. I was a junior in college. I was a bartender, and I read this book. And everybody told me, it was 2002. Everybody told me, like, you can't do that. It's not going to work. I gave it to my favorite college professor. He sat me down and he said, "Hey, look, you're really smart, but the only guy that's getting rich off this is the guy that wrote the book." Which I like telling that story because I think it really is funny. Later, I ended up helping him buy a rental property. It took me 6 months of reading books, and making offers. Realtors wouldn't show me properties because I was a college kid with no money. I started going to the local real estate club, which was a bunch of old men at Burger King with coffee. Um, like, like the world was a way different place back then. We didn't have all the tools we have now. It took me 6 months, and I finally found somebody that was willing to work with me on a deal. Sticking with it, if you stick with it, if you really want this, you can definitely get there. So there are a couple questions in here. Thea says, do you focus on Ohio? We focus on the Midwest. We customize everything to you guys. We are not a turnkey place. We're a coaching company. So we actually give you mentorship. We'll get in the boat beside you. We customize what we're doing to you. We help you pick a location. We help you figure out exactly what your buy box is. We look over your shoulder and help you look at the deals to make sure that you're safe in the deals. And then we also help you with your team as well. We're not a done for you. We're a coaching company because we believe that we can, if we teach you how to fish, you're going to then know how to fish and you're going to go out there and continue doing it. Couple other questions. Michelle, if you're interested, would love to chat with you. There's a link in the chat. I'll put my link in there again. You guys can book a call with me. I have calls open the next couple days. So feel free to book a time with me. I'm happy to chat with you. We're not a hard sell company. We believe in providing value and sitting down and talking with you and helping you reach your goals. So there we go. The link is in the chat. Lewis, that's an interesting question. Jasmine, do you see that one? That might be, I have some ideas for that. What is good cash flow, and does it mean a certain percentage? Cash flow, there's absolute number and there's a percentage. We look at properties that are 100 to 150,000 that are going to cash flow $500 is our target. You can use the 2% rule. That's a pretty safe rule. Jasmine, you look like you got thoughts.
No, I'm trying to figure out which one you're talking about.
Oh, the one on the multifamily. 16 unit with seller financing, 5 unit rented, others need work, absentee owner. Any idea on the gap funding for 15%? I would say you need some skin in the game. I would find a way to raise the money. That would be my take. If I actually bought a property like this a long time ago. I went around and raised the money for my college professors for the first multifamily I bought. Learn how to do capital raising.
Yeah, and the line I like to use, if I don't know if this is your first, it sounds like it may not be because of the complexity of this question and the types of things you're doing. But I like to say, I'm bringing along other people for the ride. There's I'm gonna have some partnerships, is what I call them, but they're my lenders.
Yeah. Some other good questions in here. Gathering information for my 20-year-old son. He's been cold calling off-market homes. He's been doing this for over a year and no deals as of yet. So I have a couple thoughts on that. First thing is he's trying to wholesale, is my guess. It's probably the market that he's in. If he's consistently calling, I mean, I like when I was doing wholesaling, which was a long time ago, my goal was 150 dials a day. So I don't know how many he's calling. Wholesaling is a numbers game. And it is getting more challenging, especially with AI entering the market, because you can program a dialer, use a couple AI tools and set it and forget it. So that's going to be a challenge.
Yeah, I like to say when you're going off market, you get to understand how much time and patience and doors that shut in your face. Like you just get to be okay with people yelling and screaming at you, everybody rejecting what you want. It's worse than being an actor. You're just going to get rejected all the time, every day, single day, 100 times a day. And if you're not getting rejected about 100 times a day, you're not doing it right, by the way. A wholesaler, it's like you said, numbers game. So I'm going to give you some numbers. Okay. If you're not dialing 100 to 200 people a day and getting those leads, by the way, that's not cheap to do that. Wholesaling in a major ways is a true business. And I commend those guys because, man, I wouldn't be willing to do it.
No, I would honestly, one, I love that he's 20 years old and he's taking action. He would be, in my opinion, better suited if he learned how, because he can go find a wholesale deal where he can buy, like, this is where, again, he's got to go look at the property. I would not do this without looking at it, but if he can go get into a property himself, it's going to be better than wholesaling. Wholesaling, he's going to make 5-8 grand maybe. Whereas if he could buy a property at 20 years old, I started buying when I was 23. I was pretty much financially free by the time I was 30. Like, it will work very well for him, but he has to get into a property. How do you find a good and safe location? Do you want to take that one? You want me to take that one?
I think you have a good idea, right? Everybody in here would probably already know what a good and safe location looks like. No bars over the windows. You maybe in a good shot. That'd be nice. I think that's a pretty good idea.
I mean, here's a couple things that I would tell you looking across the Midwest. One, I look for smaller towns. I like towns that are 40 to 120,000 people. They're going to have petty crime. They're not going to have somebody getting shot ever, really. I look for, there are plenty of crime indexes you can find online. I like to see places that are closer to schools. The closer you are to a school, there were 2 studies that I've seen done on this. The closer your rental is to a school, the lower your turnover is, which if you think about makes sense. If somebody moves in as kids, they're going to stay till their kids graduate. But that also usually leads to something that's a little bit safer.
And if you truly want to find a good and safe location, and that's one of your biggest priorities, call the police department.
Yeah.
Non-emergency, and ask them if you were going to live somewhere, or you were going to have your daughter or your son live somewhere. Where would you recommend? That should probably help out a lot. Or which ones would you stay away from is a more important one, I think, too.
Yeah. Ron, good question. We don't take a cut. We don't take a percentage. We don't get kickbacks. We don't do anything like that. We're very transparent. We have a couple different coaching programs depending on what you want. Anywhere from, like, the low end is $5K all the way up to about $30K. It really depends what you're looking for, how long you're looking for our help, and how much one-on-one support you want. You can jump on a call with me. I'm happy to talk to you about it. We're very transparent, and we're not a hard sale place. We like to help people, and we like to help people that are in a good situation. If I twist your arm into buying, chances are you're not going to take action on any of this stuff anyway. We have a very high percentage of people that get their first property with us. It's over 90%. Last we looked. That's because we pick good people. So you're welcome to jump on a call with us. We'd love to chat with you. Thea, yes, we're looking for about $500 a month. Our minimum is $300, but really it's important to look and find a good place. I like to see more in the $400 to $500. I want to go back to the original question that we got here for, Jasmine, which is how many places do you need to retire? And the way that this is usually phrased on calls, people usually say they want $10,000 to $15,000 in a reasonable time frame. What do you think a reasonable time frame is to hit 10K?
Okay, so I'm going to actually answer it in a different way. When we bring clients in to bring this number up, if I tell you how to get $10,000 to $15,000, it will normally be, a good rule of thumb kind of idea would be something like 30 to 50 properties. And that is incredibly overwhelming, especially for someone who has no properties, right? How am I supposed to even get 30 to 50 of those and then manage it? That's unbelievably crazy. Then all sorts of fears and doubts will come up. What I like to do is start you off with, do you really need $10,000 to $15,000? Or is that a nice to have? What is your absolute? I need my base level, not going to, I'm not going to get any thrills of it, but I got my foundation good, right? What is your actual bill that you wouldn't go homeless, or you can feed some kids, but maybe you're living on Simon and, Spam or whatever, right? But just know that number. And that number might be actually like 5 to 8, something a little bit easier to see. Because if you can't truly visualize, like, I can do that, or I can see myself doing that, you won't do it, right? So let's bring it down to something a little bit more realistic and attainable at first, because you can hit that number once you get going, and because you'll believe in yourself enough because you've been putting in the reps and experience and you got that proof of concepts. But at first, I'd say to retire. That means to not have to work, but your foundation is covered. Okay, making that number much easier. 5 to 8,000. You go something like that. That's probably 10 rentals versus 30, right? Sounds a little bit more doable in that sense, and you can get there very quickly. We've had people in our space that did it in 1 year. It is totally doable, if depending on your commitment and your timeline of what you want to do. And then now you can move because you've done it quickly, early. Then you don't need more. If you want to grow to that 15, you can grow faster and keep going for that time frame. But you do it for if you do it for a very short period of time and make this a true commitment for a very short period of time, you have those to hold so you can get to your actual retirement number. There's 1,000 ways to do it. I just like to start with that one, because if you go all over the place, all it does is overwhelm.
Yeah, to back up what Jasmine's saying, I hear people get caught up all the time. They're looking 30 steps down the road and they're like, oh my goodness, I need 30 houses. I'm going to be overwhelmed. How do I do all this? Just get the first house and then get the second house. If you guys remember, there's a movie that has, what's his name? Bill Murray in it, where he's learning how to sail, right? And it's literally just a baby step. How do I get onto the boat? I'm scared of sailing. Baby steps onto the boat. Baby steps to the mast. Oh my goodness, I'm sailing. Like, if you buy your first property, I hear people too, they say, well, $500 isn't that much. It's not a huge amount. That's $6,000 a year. That's nothing to sneeze at. And then that's your first place. And once you get one, it gets a lot easier to get your second. And once you get your second, it gets easier to get your third. And before you know it, you've built up this nice little cash machine that's just printing money for you every month. And that's what we're doing here. But if you look down the road, like what Jasmine's saying, and you're like, I've got to get to 15K or it's not worth doing. Well, if you start at the beginning, you might get there. Chances are you probably will if you're dedicated to it. But if you let all that stuff get in your head, you won't ever take the first couple steps. So that's just get your first place, then get your second, then your third. Set little mile markers, right? I want to get to 2K a month. I want to get to 5K a month. Before you know it, you'll be at 8K, 10K. It just keeps growing because you've got to grow with it. I hope that makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah, absolutely. It actually reminds me of a thing I used to say in the internal calls. A lot of people will that I've met when we've gone to networking events or anything like that, the longest period of time it takes is the time to get from 0 to 1. Most people will sit there and spend 20 years trying to get from 0 to 1, let alone the 10, or in our case, we went with the 90 to get us out of our jobs, right?
Well,
it would take the amount of time, though. That's definitely the longest time frame.
Yeah.
After that, they move fast.
So, I mean, I would actually answer the question, how many rentals do you actually need to retire? I would say 1. Because if you get one, if you bought one today, 25 years from now, it's paid off. The nice thing about real estate is every year you gain a little bit of equity and you gain a little bit more rent. So if you're going to say you're making, I don't know, $1,200 a month in rent off of it right now, 20 years from now, you're probably going to be making, who knows, with inflation, $3,500. I look back at the places I was renting 25 years ago, $175 a month. Can you believe rent when I was in college was $175 a month? I think about that. I'm just like, man, it's crazy. But that was small town Ohio. But now the place is still only renting for $600 a month. Same place. It's pretty interesting.
And not only that, right? You get the appreciation. You get somebody else is paying your mortgages down. It's not you, right? Yeah. And after that, there's just so much, the compounding of it all. There's just so many options you have, even with just one. But the one gets you going. The one gets you that proof of concept. The one gets you to say, I'm not a wannabe anymore. I'm an actual investor
Yeah.
and I can do this, versus it'd be nice.
Everybody can do this. Like I truly believe everyone can do it. Nina, you're asking for your son. It depends on what his job is and what his credit score is. I always go with a local credit union. A local credit union will be a lot more likely to work with you than a bigger bank, because the credit union, a smaller credit union in a smaller town, usually has a board that makes decisions on the loan still. Um, if he doesn't have a good job, if he doesn't have some down money, if he doesn't have good credit, then I would say he's going to have to find somebody that will do owner financing, and then he's going to have to come up with the money. That's going to take him really knowing his numbers and really learning how a place works, but that's a good thing. When I started out, that was the first place that I bought, because I showed up at that real estate investor meeting every week or every month. They eventually got to know me, and one of the older guys was like, hey, I have this duplex. It's in fair shape. It didn't really need any work. I did get a home inspection on it, and he sold it to me, and I needed a couple grand down. He was willing to work with me because he knew that I was going to show up and take action. So that would be kind of my suggestion for that. How do we work with somebody? Thea, I'll put my notes, my calendar link in the chat. You can grab a call with me if you'd like, and I'm happy to walk you through it. Navy Federal Credit Union would be great. That'd be a good place for him to start. What if you buy a house and it doesn't rent? Dun, dun, dun.
If you bought a house and it doesn't rent, it depends on how long, right? That's what I like to say. If you're looking at it and go, it's not renting, and it's been a day and a half, well, maybe we're going to want to make sure we're budgeting for everything and making sure we have ranges so we know, right? On a property that isn't rented, depending on where you're buying it, because a property in a nice neighborhood will rent much faster with it, that has family oriented near a school will rent much faster than somewhere that's not, where you might need a gun. I keep bringing up bars and guns, but it may not rent as well, or as easily in different types of property. So it all depends on that, right? So, but on average, if your property isn't being rented in the spring and the nice in the summers and stuff like that, when people are moving within a month time frame, then you're going to talk to your property managers, because that's a general rule of thumb of how long you want to be, and you're going to be actively talking to your managers as well.
So I would say there's a couple things that you can look at there. One, before you buy the property, I want to see the rent history for the property. If it's a rental, if it's a single family, I want to look at other rentals around it, and I want to see how long they're sitting. But to Jasmine's point, we buy places that are in low crime near schools. Those places will rent much faster. Everybody's worried, like, what if it doesn't rent? What if it doesn't rent? If you're buying in a good location, it will rent. That's the best thing I can tell you. And you can track other rentals that are around it to see how long they're vacant and how fast they're renting. It does bring up our team, the team that we help you guys build as remote investors. The biggest person on your team is your property manager. Having a great property manager is going to really help make sure that you don't have vacancies, that you have good tenants. Do you want to talk about that a little bit, Jasmine?
About property managers?
Yeah, just because this is one of the biggest fears is either the place isn't going to rent, or I'm going to have vacancies for a long time, or I'm going to have bad tenants. And really all that comes down to the manager.
Absolutely, because that's the property manager is the person that's going to really make you money, because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. And your property manager will stop the bleeding faster. A good property manager will definitely stop the bleeding faster and ensure when things go wrong, it can get back on track pretty quickly. A bad property manager will make things worse. And given that it's thousands of miles away, it can be even worse than that, right? There's a lot of property managers who don't care, and they try to take advantage of people who are out of state because they just don't understand and they don't know how to run their teams, and they'll take advantage of you. So that's how you hear those horror stories of people from out of state buying in Midwest there, and then they're just like, these numbers don't work, and then they end up selling it off. And that's simply because, mainly because of the time frame that they were holding it. They didn't work well with the property management or be able to find good property management there. So that's what I mean by it's not what you earn, it's what you keep. It's not getting a property is not the goal. Keeping the property and keeping it cash flowing, that's the goal.
Keeping the property cash flowing is definitely the goal. Talking about property managers, like people having a good property manager will make or break the property. And we teach how to interview them. We teach how to find good ones. It is something that can be a challenge. Somebody asked, do you always use a property manager? Yes. When you're remote investing, 100%. You don't want to have to deal with it, but you do want to find a good property manager.
I did want to put add into that, and it's not just because there's so many different tools. So many different softwares, AI, all these things, that it's making it easier for you to do this. At the same time, are you really looking to make another job for yourself? The idea was to get passive income. So having team members and people on the ground and doing all and having and leading a team versus you doing it yourself with software, that's not exactly how you scale.
I would agree with that. Do we offer property managers? We don't offer them. We don't take a kickback. We don't get any referral fees or anything like that. If you're investing in an area that we know somebody, we will put you in touch with somebody if we know they're good. Most likely, though, we are just going to show you how to hire a good property manager. One of the things, Jasmine, you might disagree with me on this one, but when I was hiring property managers, I never hired a property manager that was also a realtor. I always found the full-time property managers, because the ones that are realtors, what's their primary drive, right? It's to buy and list houses, or to list houses and to sell houses, not necessarily to rent your property. If their sole income is tied to your property being filled and having good tenants, they're going to do a lot better job. That was just my 2 cents that I learned way back then.
I'm a fan of every team member is a specialist, not a generalist. So I want specialists on my team, because a person who is a master at everything is actually average at everything, not a master of nothing, really. I want a master of that one thing, and they do that one thing only. And I want that team, so I have the right. So I'm just the quarterback of the team and strategizing on where they should go and what we should do and who should be replaced.
Yeah. Somebody sent me a message and said that my link, they were having a hard time with the link. If you click on either a text message or an email that you got getting you here and just reply to it and say, hey, I'd like to jump on a call, we'll send you a link. We'll get you scheduled in. I don't know if you're having a hard time with the link, but we'll take care of you. So these are all things that we teach. Going back to the question that got us on here, because we're on bonus time right now a little bit. How many rentals do you need to retire? I would say a handful. It really depends on, what your real goal is, how long you have. If you're, I know Nina was on here, her son's 20 years old. If he bought 5 properties right now, by the time he's 45, he'll never have to work another day in his life. If he gets them paid off. I think about that all the time.
Yeah, me too. Like, if I just started at 20 and did what I did, imagine where I could be now, right? That's the way I always think about it. Or we even have a couple young ones in our space. It was, I think she was 26 and she ended up with 6 properties when she did that. And now she's older. No, I'm sorry. She was 23 and now she's 26. That's what it was. And like, she's even having a hard time dating because she just doesn't understand why you have to work so hard.
That's my kind of person right there. I love that. So a couple of good questions in here. The $500 cash flow. So we teach running every property as its own business with its own P&L sheet. The $500 in cash flow is after your expenses, after holdback for vacancy, after holdback for management, and after holdback for maintenance. So that $500 is considered positive cash flow. That is after all of your expenses. Daniel says, what about starting as your own property manager? I would implore you not to do that. That is one of the worst ideas you can possibly do, because the minute you start getting a call from tenants, the minute you have a problem going on and you have to deal with it, you're going to want to pull your hair out.
Oh.
Notice I don't have any. Most good property managers are 10 to 12%. That's $100 a month, maybe $130 a month, to make your job way, way, way easier. This is why you've always heard in real estate, money is made when you buy, not when you sell. If you buy a good property and you do your spreadsheet correctly, you build that cost in and you're still going to make $500 a month. Don't be greedy. Don't go for 600. Just take the 500 and have a property manager. That's how you scale, and that's how you run a successful business.
Even if you decide not to take Steve's advice and you want to, just because you want that extra $100, fine, whatever. You still get to build it into your numbers when you buy it anyway, because if you decide that you want to get a property manager later because you're growing and it's not worth your time anymore to deal with all of this, then you can just get a property manager and your numbers don't really change. Okay, it's just cherry on top stuff if you have to see it that way. Buy right the first time, because a lot of people out there are managing their own properties because they just didn't buy right in the first place. So now they have to. Don't be that guy.
Yeah, that I would agree. I've seen people get burned with that. They want to. I call it shoehorning themselves into a deal. They find a deal and they're like, "Oh, I have to buy it, and it's only going to cash flow $300 a month, but I'll property manage it." And then some things shift around, and then before you know it, they're break even on a property and they're miserable. So, Thea, looking forward to chatting with you. All right. Homeowners insurance difficult to obtain. Depends on the state, and Midwest is really easy because there's no tornadoes. I won't say none. There's very few insurance problems. You look at Ohio or Indiana, there's no act of gods, there's no hurricanes, there's no earthquakes, there's no floods, knocking on wood. But it's pretty easy to get homeowners insurance there. It's one of the things that's challenging in Florida and Texas right now. All right, Jasmine, any words of advice for people here before we jump off?
The biggest thing I like to say, and I'll say over and over again, is just get a result. That's one of our biggest things. Just get that first result, that first proof of concept, whatever it's got to look like for you. Get it done, get that action, get the lessons, and keep going.
That's it. If you get your first property, like you start taking action. When you start taking action, like your first place that you analyze is going to seem like, oh my goodness, did I do it right? But then you do 20 of them and it becomes commonplace. Same thing with making offers. Your first offer, you're going to be super nervous. By the time you make 20 of them, it'll be old hat and you won't care whether they say yes or no. You'll be making it based on whether it's a good property or not. Get your first property, then you're going to get your second, then you're going to get your third. Before you know it, you'll have income coming in. You'll be able to retire. Wishing you guys an awesome night. If you guys enjoy these,
go ahead.
Let us know. Jasmine, I'll throw it over to you.
No, I didn't know you were going. I thought you were like, oh, it's fine. I just want to make sure that they knew the. If you're in Hawaii, we're doing an in-person event at the Kroc Center in Kapolei on May 29th. That's a Friday. I think it's 6 a.m. 6 p.m. 6 a.m. At like 6 p.m. I think. So if you want to get that information, or didn't write that down here, you can just show up there. They got free poo-poos, so that you'll get to meet a lot of people on our team and get more questions answered if you'd like. And we have it posted all over our Facebook page or Instagram, so you can register to let us know how many people are coming. So there's that. And then of course, Steve, when is our next one? We're doing this every other week, right? So
yep, every other week. If you have something you would like covered, if you have like a question that keeps popping up in your head, maybe you didn't want to ask it in the chat, send it to us. Reply to the email, reply to the text. We'll get it, and then we'll see it. And our whole goal with this is to provide value to you guys. I remember back when I started, like I read Rich Dad Poor Dad, and there weren't a lot of resources out there, but I was encouraged by the old men at the coffee club at Burger King. I met a guy down in Columbus, Ohio. I was in college in Ohio. He was in his 40s, and he said the same thing Jasmine said. He's like, "You're my hero." He's like, "You're 23 years old and you're figuring this out. We're here to encourage you. We're here to help you. If we can help you, you can always book a call with us. We're happy to chat. Otherwise, we'll see you in 2 weeks. Reply to the text, reply to the email. Wishing you guys an awesome night. Bye, everyone.